The last words I ever heard my father say about me weren't spoken to my face. They were whispered through a screen door while I stood on the porch in the same black dress I'd worn to my husband's grave just hours earlier. She doesn't need to know what it's worth. She wouldn't know what to do with it anyway. That's what he said. And what I did next changed everything. My name is Clara Benson. I'm 34 years old, and this is the story of how the people who raised me tried to steal $4 million from me while I was still wearing cemetery dirt on my shoes. Before I take you inside that house, if stories about real family drama hit close to home, take a second to hit that subscribe button on Anonymous Confessions. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. It was a Tuesday morning in October when we buried my husband, Mark. Not quite 2 weeks after his heart gave out on the kitchen floor. 39 years old, software engineer, the kind of man who fixed things without being asked. The church sat on a hill outside Worcester. About 50 people showed up. My best friend Natalie sat next to me in the front row and never let go of my hand. But 3 seats on the left side stayed empty. My parents, my sister Lauren. No coats draped over those seats. I checked my phone during the final hymn. Nothing. I made excuses for them in my head the whole ride to the cemetery, but they never came. Not to the church, not to the grave. The next morning, I got a call that changed everything. A Boston number I didn't recognize. "Hello, Mrs. Benson. This is Harold Pierce. I was your husband's estate attorney." Estate attorney? Mark never mentioned one. He asked me to come to his office, said there were documents I needed to see. I sat across from a gray-haired man who slid a folder across his desk. "Your husband executed a will 18 months ago," he said. "He named you sole beneficiary." Then he showed me the properties. 3 apartment buildings in Somerville, Cambridge, and Dorchester. Combined value just over $2.5 million, and a summer house on the Cape worth another $1.5 million. I stared at those numbers until they blurred. Mark drove a Honda with a cracked dashboard, and all along he'd been quietly building something I never knew existed. The attorney studied my face, then pulled out a business card. "Mrs. Benson, your husband prepared carefully for this day. If anyone tries to pressure you about these assets, you call me before you sign a single thing." I didn't understand why he'd been so careful. Not yet. I wouldn't understand until that same evening when I drove to my parents' house in Quincy. The porch light was on. I walked up the steps. The screen door was latched, but the inner door stood cracked open. I reached for the handle, and then I heard my name. "Clara doesn't need to know the details yet." My father's voice, low, controlled. My hand stopped an inch from the screen. "Pierce called me this afternoon. Mark left her apartments, 3 of them, plus a house on the Cape." Silence. Then my sister Lauren's voice, sharp as broken glass. "How much?" "Close to $4 million. Longer silence. I could hear the mantel clock ticking. Then Lauren, "She can't keep that money. She doesn't even know how to pay an electric bill." My father grunted agreement. I stood frozen on that porch, shaking. Inside that house, the 3 people who'd known me my entire life were talking about me like I was a problem to be solved. But what came next rewired my brain permanently. My mother's voice drifted through the crack, soft as silk, sharp as a blade. "Mark dying is the best thing that's happened to this family. Now we finally have a way out." I want you to sit with that. My husband, dead 16 days, and my mother called his death the best thing. My knees went liquid, but I didn't move. My father picked up where she left off. "I talked to Feldman today. He'll sign a certificate. Grief disorder, inability to manage financial decisions. We file for guardianship." This is the part where I need to pause and ask, have you ever had a moment where you realized someone you loved was not who you thought they were? Drop it in the comments. And if these stories of family betrayal resonate with you, make sure you're subscribed to Anonymous Confessions. Lauren, again, casualers takeout. I already called a real estate agent in Barnstable about the cake house. My mother, Make sure you hide the paperwork. If Clara sees any of it, the whole thing falls apart." I stood on that porch for another minute. Then I pulled out my phone, opened the voice recorder, and pressed the red button. I held it near the crack and let it listen. 2 more minutes of my family writing the script for my destruction. Then I pressed stop. I turned around, I walked down the steps, I got in my car, and I drove away, without knocking, without crying. 30 minutes of silence on the drive home, one question looping through my brain. How long had they been looking at me and seeing a wallet instead of a person? I sat at my kitchen table that night with Mark's coffee mug still in the drying rack and the attorney's business card next to my phone. The recording sat on that phone, waiting. I called Natalie at 11 o'clock. She picked up on the second ring. She always does. I told her everything. The empty seats, the attorney's office, the porch, every word I'd heard. Natalie didn't gasp. She just listened. That's what makes her dangerous. She listens the way lawyers do. When she finished, her voice came through the phone like steel. "Clara, do not call your parents, do not call Lauren. First thing tomorrow, you call Pierce, then you call me." Natalie's a paralegal downtown Boston, 11 years around probate cases. She recognized what my family was doing before I even had words for it. What they're describing, using a doctor to certify you as incapacitated without examining you and then filing for guardianship, that's forgery. That's fraud. That's a felony. She gave me a name. Detective Raymond Cruz, Norfolk County, specializes in financial fraud against vulnerable adults. If we need him, and I think we will, I can make the call. I stared at Mark's coffee mug. He used to tell me I was stronger than I thought. I never believed him before that night, but I was starting to. The next morning, my mother called. Her voice was warm, rehearsed. "Sweetheart, I've been thinking about you all night. Why didn't you come by yesterday? We waited for you." They waited for me. I almost laughed. "I was exhausted, Mom. Maybe another time. How about Sunday dinner? The whole family. Lauren wants to see you. Your father's been worried sick." I kept my voice even. "Sure, Mom. Sunday works." I hung up and immediately called Pierce. He answered on the first ring. "Mr. Pierce, my father contacted you yesterday about Mark's estate. What did he ask?" A pause. "He asked about the total value. He asked whether you were the sole beneficiary, and he asked, hypothetically, what would happen if you were declared legally incapacitated." My stomach dropped. "Mrs. Benson, I told him nothing beyond public record, but his questions concerned me. That's why I gave you my card." Mark's attorney had seen it coming before I did. "If your father files for guardianship and you don't respond in time, a judge could grant a temporary order in as few as 14 days. I'm filing a preemptive objection today." Then he gave me one more name, Dr. Elaine Morrison, board-certified psychiatrist. Schedule an evaluation with her this week. If we have a legitimate psychiatric report confirming your full capacity, any fraudulent filing collapses. I called before lunch. First appointment, Thursday afternoon. Thursday came. Dr. Morrison's office was a converted Victorian near Brookline. The evaluation lasted 90 minutes. I asked about Mark, about my daily routines, about my childhood, about my parents. I told the truth. At the end, she set her pen down. "Mrs. Benson, you are grieving. That is human. It is not a disability. There is no indication of diminished cognitive function or inability to manage your affairs." She signed the report, stamped it, and handed me the original in a sealed envelope. I drove home feeling like I could breathe for the first time in a week. A licensed psychiatrist had just confirmed in writing what Mark always told me. I was capable, I was sound, I was enough. What I didn't know, what Natalie found out that same evening, was that my father had visited Dr. Feldman that very afternoon. Same day, same city, completely different result.
Feldman, a family physician, not a psychiatrist, had signed a certificate declaring me mentally incapacitated, severe grief disorder, marked inability to manage personal and financial affairs. He'd never met me, never scheduled an appointment, never once looked me in the eye. And on Feldman's certificate, the line marked date of patient examination, completely blank. The line for method of evaluation, also blank. Because there was no examination, there was only a signature and a favor between golf partners. Sunday evening arrived. I stood on the same porch where I'd overheard everything 5 days earlier. This time I knocked. My father opened the door with a smile I'd never seen before, too wide, too warm. He pulled out my chair at dinner, poured my water. Gerald Benson had never poured anyone's water in 62 years. My mother made chicken piccata, my favorite from childhood. The house smelled like lemon and butter.
Lauren hugged me in the hallway. Her perfume was expensive. Her credit card debt was more expensive. We sat. We ate. My father steered the conversation carefully. So, sweetheart, have you had a chance to sort through Mark's things? Do you know what he left behind? I chewed slowly. The lawyer's still handling it. I don't really understand most of it yet. A look passed between my parents. Quick, almost invisible, but I caught it. My father leaned forward. Finances are complicated, sweetheart. Let your dad handle the lawyer stuff. My mother nodded. He's right, honey. You need to focus on healing. Halfway through dinner, I excused myself. On the way back, I passed my father's home office. The door was cracked open. On his desk, half hidden under a newspaper, sat a manila envelope stamped with the Norfolk County Court logo. I pulled out my phone and took a photo. 2 seconds. Then I walked back to the table. I drove home and opened the photo. The envelope's return address? Norfolk Probate and Family Court. The stamp across the front? Petition for guardianship. They'd already filed. Monday morning, I called Pierce before the coffee finished brewing. They filed. I saw the envelope last night. 3 seconds of silence. Keys clicking. I'm looking at it now. Gerald Benson, petitioner. Lauren Benson, proposed guardian. Attached exhibit. A medical certificate signed by Dr. Nathan Feldman stating you lack the mental capacity to manage your person and estate. Hearing it stated that way, in legal language assigned a case number, made it real. This was no longer family talk. This was a court filing. The preliminary hearing is set for 14 days from the filing date. If we don't respond before then, a judge could issue a temporary guardianship order. Lauren would have legal authority over your finances within the hour. 14 days. That's all that stood between me and losing everything Mark had built. I'm filing our objection this morning, Pierce said. Dr. Morrison's report goes in as the primary exhibit. I called Natalie next. Good, she said. Pierce handles the court side, but there's a criminal side too, and that's where Cruz comes in. He wants to hear the recording, and he wants Feldman's certificate. The call came on Wednesday, day 3 of 14. A woman from Bay State Property Management asked to speak with me. Mrs. Benson, we received a request yesterday from a woman identifying herself as your legal guardian. She asked to redirect all rental income to a new bank account. I gripped the edge of the counter. What was her name? Lauren Benson. She provided a case number from Norfolk Probate Court and said the guardianship was already in effect. It wasn't. The hearing hadn't happened. No judge had signed anything. And yet my sister had already called, claimed legal authority she didn't have, and tried to funnel my income into her own account. I thanked the woman and asked her to do nothing until she heard from my attorney. She agreed. I called Pierce. He drafted a cease and desist letter within the hour. That night, my mother called again. Honey, I heard you've been difficult about the apartment situation. Why are you making this so hard? Difficult? I'd been called a lot of things in the last 2 weeks. Incapable, unstable, now difficult. I kept my voice flat. I'm not being difficult, Mom. I just want to understand things before I make decisions. Well, she said, and I could hear the mask slip. Don't take too long. She hung up first. My father showed up at my apartment the following afternoon. No call ahead, just a knock, and there he stood, holding 2 coffees.
He sat at Mark's kitchen table and made small talk for exactly 10 minutes. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out a thin stack of papers. "Listen, sweetheart, I had a lawyer draw these up. It's just a temporary power of attorney, lets me handle the real estate paperwork for you." He slid the papers across the table, a blue pen on top. I looked down at the document. The header read, "Durable General Power of Attorney, not limited, not temporary, general." It would give Gerald complete authority over every financial decision in my life. "Dad, I need to read this first. Give me a few days." His jaw tightened. "Clara, time matters here. Mark always told me to read before I sign. I think I should honor that." He couldn't argue with a dead man's advice. He left the papers and walked out. I photographed every page and sent them to Pierce. His reply came within an hour. "Do not sign. This is a general POA with no restrictions. If you execute this, your father can sell every property by tomorrow morning." Natalie came over Friday night with her laptop. "Sit down. I pulled everything I could from public records, and it's worse than we thought." She turned the screen toward me. "Gerald Benson, second mortgage on the Quincy house, $320,000. Federal tax lien, $95,000. 2 delinquent credit lines. A pending collections notice. Lauren Benson, 4 credit cards, 3 frozen. Total revolving debt, $180,000. 2 civil suits, an eviction filing." I stared at the numbers. Nearly $600,000 in combined debt. My family was drowning, and Mark's estate was worth almost $4 million. The math wasn't complicated. I was their lifeboat. Day 12. Cruz called at 7 in the morning. I have Feldman's certificate, and it's exactly what we expected. I sat on the edge of the bed and listened. The signature line, filled. Nathan Feldman, MD. The diagnosis line, severe grief disorder with marked impairment of financial and personal decision-making. But the line for date of patient evaluation, blank. The line for method of evaluation, also blank. Cruz continued. "I pulled Feldman's appointment records for the date he signed the certificate. Your name doesn't appear anywhere. No entry, no chart, no file." He paused. "He signed a legal medical document certifying your incapacity without ever being in the same room as you. That's forgery, and because it was submitted to a court, it's a fraud upon the tribunal, a felony. I'm obtaining a warrant for Feldman's arrest this morning. Once he's in custody, I expect him to cooperate. When he talks, he'll confirm who asked him to sign. Detective Cruz, when you go to my parents' house, I want to be there." Long pause. "Are you sure?" "I need to see their faces, and they need to see mine." He agreed. Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Sunday morning arrived. Clear sky, no rain. I pulled into my parents' driveway at 8 a.m. I sat in the car for 2 full minutes, breathing. Then I got out. Black coat, hair pulled back, no makeup. Mark's letter in my left pocket. I knocked. My father opened the door in a flannel shirt. "Clara, it's 8 in the morning. What are you—" "I need to talk to everyone, all 3 of you, before things go any further." He stepped aside. My mother stood at the kitchen counter in her robe clothes. Lauren was curled on the sofa with a blanket. They both looked up. My mother smiled automatically. "Sweetheart, what a surprise." Lauren didn't smile. She watched me the way a cat watches a door. I sat in the armchair across from the sofa. "I want to hear it from you, all of it, what the plan is." My father sat down across from me, squared his shoulders. "Fine, this is about protecting your future, the estate. My mother and I just want what's best." My mother nodded. Lauren said nothing. I let him talk. About responsibility, about how financial decisions were too much for someone in your condition. When he finished, I asked one question. "When was the last time you saw Dr. Feldman, Dad?" His face froze mid-breath. And that's when the doorbell rang. My father looked at me. I didn't look away. He walked to the door and opened it. Detective Raymond Cruz stood on the porch, badge visible. Behind him, Harold Pierce and Natalie. "Mr. Gerald Benson, I'm Detective Raymond Cruz. May I come in?" My father stepped back. They filed into the living room. My mother stood up so fast she knocked her coffee mug off the counter. It shattered. Lauren sat upright, her phone capping. Cruz took the center of the room. I'm here regarding a petition for guardianship filed by you, Mr. Benson, on behalf of your daughter. This is a private family matter. When the medical certificate attached to that petition is fraudulent, it becomes a criminal matter." The room went silent. Cruz pulled a document sleeve from his jacket. "This certificate, signed by Dr. Nathan Feldman, declares your daughter mentally incapacitated, but Dr. Feldman never examined your daughter. The date of patient evaluation field is blank. His appointment log shows no record of your name." He paused. "He signed a legal medical document certifying your incapacity without ever being in the same room as you. That's forgery, and because it was submitted to a court, it's a fraud upon the tribunal, a felony. I'm obtaining a warrant for Feldman's arrest this morning. Once he's in custody, I expect him to cooperate. When he talks, he'll confirm who asked him to sign." My mother sank back on the stool. Lauren's jaw went slack. "Dr. Feldman states you personally requested he sign a certificate of incapacity for your daughter without conducting an examination. He states your wife provided the diagnostic language, and he states your daughter was aware and participated in the plan." My mother pressed both hands to her mouth. Lauren shot to her feet. "I didn't know about the doctor. This was Dad's idea." My father spun toward her. "You called the real estate agent before we even had the papers." They turned on each other in under 10 seconds. I stood up. The room went still. "I heard everything. The night of Mark's funeral. I stood outside that door. I pointed. I heard Dad say Feldman would sign. I heard Lauren say she'd called an agent. And I heard my mom say—" I looked directly at my mother. "Mark dying is the best thing that's happened to this family." My mother's face crumpled. "Clara, I didn't mean—"
"You said it, Mom. Word for word. And I recorded it." Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. "I'm not here for revenge," I said. "I'm here to tell you I heard you. I know. And I choose not to forgive." Cruz nodded toward the front door. 2 uniformed officers stepped inside. "Gerald Benson, you are under arrest for fraud upon the court, forgery of medical documents, and conspiracy to misappropriate assets." My father stood still while the officer placed cuffs on him. He looked at me once. "Clara, you can't do this to your father." I didn't answer. My mother was next. She didn't resist. Tears ran down her face. "Baby girl, I'm sorry. I was desperate." "Desperation doesn't give you the right to declare me insane, Mom." She had no answer. Cruz turned to Lauren. "Lauren Benson, you are under arrest for identity fraud and attempted theft by deception." Lauren's legs buckled. "Clara, Clara, please." One word. I didn't need to. They led all 3 of them out the front door. The living room was empty now. Just me, Natalie, Pierce, and the smell of cold coffee and broken porcelain. Natalie put her hand on my shoulder. She didn't say anything. 2 weeks passed. Pierce called with the full update. Gerald Benson indicted on 3 counts. Donna Benson indicted on 2 counts, barred from contacting me. Lauren Benson charged with identity fraud, passport surrendered. Dr. Feldman, medical license suspended, charged with forgery, cooperating with prosecutors. The guardianship petition was dismissed with prejudice, permanently. I was confirmed as sole legal owner of all 4 properties. No conditions, no oversight, no guardian, just me. "You're clear, Mrs. Benson. Legally, financially, entirely." I thanked him and hung up. The call came 3 weeks later, an unfamiliar number. I almost let it go. "Clara," my mother's voice, small and cracked. "I know I'm not supposed to call, but please, just 30 seconds. I should have hung up. I didn't. "Your father's going to lose the house. I don't know where I'm going to live. Mom, you're violating a court order right now. I know. I'm sorry. I was wrong. We were desperate. You were desperate. so you decided to have me declared mentally unfit. Lauren would have sold everything Mark left me. Did you think about what would have happened to me?" Nothing, just the sound of her breathing. "I don't hate you, Mom, but I can't trust you, and I won't let you close enough to make me question my own mind again. Don't call again." I hung up. Then I called Pierce to report the contact violation. I spent the next few days undoing what Lauren had built. Short emails, simple language, no drama. "Hi, Angela. I wanted to let you know I'm doing well. The situation Lauren described was not accurate." I sent 7 of those emails. I didn't explain the arrests. I just showed up, present, coherent, whole, and let that be the answer. That Friday, I drove to Cape Cod alone. The house was smaller than I'd imagined. Pale blue shingles, a wraparound porch that faced the Atlantic. I stood on that porch with Mark's letter in my hand. The wind pressed my coat flat against my ribs. I read his words again. "You are stronger than you think. You've always been strong. You just never had permission to believe it." This time, I believed him. If this story reached you, hit that subscribe button on Anonymous Confessions. If you know someone who needs to hear this, send them this video. 6 months later, I was living in the Cape House full-time. I enrolled in a financial literacy course. Pierce introduced me to a property management firm. I reviewed the monthly statements. I asked questions. For the first time in my adult life, I knew exactly where my money was. In March, I took a part-time position at a nonprofit supporting young widows. I didn't need the paycheck. I needed the purpose. Natalie visits every month. We sit on the porch with wine and watch the waves. She never said, "I told you so." She just shows up. That's what the good ones do. The sentencing came down in April. Gerald received 18 months. Donna got probation and community service. Lauren got 6 months in county jail, followed by probation. I didn't attend. I don't talk to my father. I don't talk to my mother. I don't talk to Lauren. That's not anger. It's architecture. I built a wall where there used to be a door. Gerald sent a letter from prison. I recognized his handwriting. I held it for 10 seconds. Then I wrote, "Return to sender," and dropped it in the mailbox. Lauren tried going through a friend. A voicemail. "Tell Clara I'm sorry." I listened once, then I deleted it. People ask if I've forgiven them. Here's what I've learned. Forgiveness is putting down the weight. It's choosing not to carry their choices on your back every morning. I'm working on that part. But boundaries are different. Boundaries aren't about feelings. They're about safety. I will not unlock that door. Not for apologies. Not for tears. Not for blood. Mark wrote, "You've always been strong. You just never had permission to believe it." He was right. But I'd add one thing. I don't need permission anymore. Not from him. Not from them. Not from anyone. This morning, I woke up at 6, made coffee, walked out to the porch. The ocean was doing its thing, rolling in, pulling back, not asking anyone's permission. There's no one at my door asking me to sign anything. No one on the phone telling me I'm not capable. No one in the next room whispering about how to take what's mine. Mark left me 4 walls and a roof. But the thing he actually left me, the thing no forged certificate could ever touch, was the belief that I deserve to be safe, that I am enough. If you're listening and someone in your life is telling you that you're not smart enough, not strong enough to make your own decisions, hear me. That is the language of someone who wants to control you. It is not the truth. The strongest revenge is not sending anyone to prison. It's building a life where the people who tried to destroy you have no power left. Not on your money, not on your mind,
not on your morning coffee on a porch that belongs to you and no one else. That's my story. If it reached you, hit subscribe. And honestly, that's where it all ended, and where something new finally began.